Okay, thank you. Welcome everyone to the Carver Conservation Commission meeting for Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025. This meeting is being cablecast by Area 58 Community Access Media, Channel 15, and will be posted by Area 58 on YouTube as soon as possible. We've got a pretty light agenda this evening. We'll start right away with our first order of business under discussions in business, and this is the discussion of legacy stables. Horse manure management.
So we had met regarding this at our last meeting. It was in July 23rd, and we had discussed the history of the property and the kind of ongoing storage of manure behind the barn on their property. And at the last meeting we had heard from a lot of the neighbors, as well as from Elizabeth's parents who live at the property. However, Elizabeth and Michael Murphy, they live in Wisconsin, I believe, and they are kind of back and forth, so they weren't able to come to the meeting. And I suggested at the last meeting that we have them come before us, at least to hear directly from them. Since we did hear, from the neighbors, I think it's only fair to hear from Elizabeth and Michael about what their perspectives are on the on the things that were said. So I believe they've had a chance to watch the video from the meeting and kind of hear the discussion that we had at our last meeting. And I think at the last meeting we had gone over quite a few different paths forward for kind of dealing with the manure, which is right behind the stable, but it's obviously within our 200-foot riverfront area, as well as the 100-foot buffer from any BVW that is down there. So it's something that obviously we have concern about, considering the proximity to the river. And I had asked the Murphys to kind of give us an update on after the meeting how they would like to go forward with managing the the manure. And they have provided us with a kind of just an overview of how they plan to do that based on Board of Health and our recommendations at the last meeting. So I sent that to all of you. You guys have had a chance to look at that, and I just thought we could bring them on and have a productive discussion, and see where they're at with all of this.
Okay. I'd like to hear from the owners. Just give a little background on. I see that you say this has been there for 53 years. Just I'd like a little background on the size of it for the past 53 years. If it's been getting bigger as your stable has grown, and just get your viewpoint on this, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Always the same amount of horses. Actually, there's less horses now than there were before. Prior, there had been 80 horses there when we were there running an operation. Now there's under 50. It's been kept in the same location. It's been kept in since my grandfather was there. We've always had it removed by local cranberry farmers. Not much has really changed as far as the business, and or has any of the locations of where we store things have changed as well.
Okay. From the standpoint, Emil, of bylaws and I guess jurisdiction. What are the availabilities? You know, how far can we go here? I mean, it's a riverfront. It's a 200-foot zone that we have to give permission for things to be in. Does agricultural change this? Does I'm just wondering what exemptions are available, if any.
Yeah, so under the Wetlands Protection Act, the river has a 200-foot jurisdiction. So obviously this is well within that. The BVW, which I would imagine there is BVW around the edge of the the river, has a 100-foot jurisdiction. So the bylaw as well, we also maintain a 100-foot jurisdiction, as well as a 65-foot no disturb area. So essentially, the Wetlands Protection Act doesn't give really clear, direct guidance on how to manage manure specifically within the 100-foot buffer zone. And in a case like this is a horse stable. So the horse stable business does not qualify for agricultural exemptions because it is not producing a commodity that is, an agricultural commodity. So essentially, like typical.
Emil,
Yep.
it actually is considered agriculture by like Mass Farm Bureau and all farmers.
That's fair. That's fair if
We're
it's.
actually,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I know that's actually considered commercial agriculture.
Yeah, well, there's a difference between agriculture that's defined under like state agricultural laws and the Wetlands Protection Act. So the Wetlands Protection Act has very kind of straightforward, or not straightforward, but very specific guidelines for what is required for agricultural use. And essentially, number one thing, it has to be land and agricultural use. It has to be producing a product that is, a agricultural commodity, and it has to be done for profit. And just bear with me for one moment while I just lay this out. If you were a farm that was producing, let's just say cattle, for the purpose of, producing meat and for profit, and you're using that land for cattle, then you would fall under agricultural exemption, and you'd be able to store manure, in an area that is jurisdictional without a permit. However, because this is a stable, which is primarily, like keeping horses and, having, riding lessons and things like that, you're not actually producing a agricultural commodity, which is one of the requirements for the exemptions under the Wetlands Protection Act specifically. Now I'm talking,
So the bulls that are born there, because we had standardbred babies that the Massachusetts state had to come out and check before December 1st, over 10 of them a year.
Okay.
They have twice a year to check the foals that are then sold for profit. That isn't considered a breeding operation, is it?
I think that would be different if that is one of the primary purposes of your business is to actually sell horses for profit. Then I guess that would qualify as an agricultural exemption. I wasn't aware that was something that your business does.
Well, it's always been breeding farms since 1971. We've had stallions on the farm. We've had bulls. There's actually a yearling foal there now outside. I just took our other weanlings out here, out in Wisconsin, to our training out here, but all the foaling is done there. Like I said, this case had to come before December 1st, and then after the foals are born, check to actually who we say they are for racing purposes, like we mass race the standard
Well, I haven't really looked into that fully, but I do think that if you were producing farm animals for profit, then that would qualify as an agricultural exemption, which would change things. And I apologize, I was not aware that that was the case. But
That's okay.
I mean, it's the manure thing is kind of, I don't know. I just don't know if having a manure pile. I just don't know if having a manure pile of that size. Obviously, we all had kind of an issue with how large the pile got in the previous meeting, and obviously, I think we can all agree that that is just above and beyond what is acceptable for being within.
Great. We don't deny that at all. And that was when it was supposed to be getting picked up twice a year, fall and spring. We got behind. Part of it was our fault. Part of it, we had machinery that was down, like I had expressed in the first letter.
Yeah.
We offered to double the removal from that to doing it quarterly.
In the plan?
In the plan. So that size of the pile will never even get to a quarter that size again. We've kept it within the 65 feet buffer you've asked. Actually, it's further away than that. It's over to the right where you had asked us to put it. We put a silt fence. We've got the construction hay there, the heavy vegetation that's uphill. I just don't see any way that any runoff is going to get into that river or ever has been.
Yeah, so again, I do think that if you are, and your part of your business is, producing animals for profit, it definitely does change things. And I'll just read from the regulations.
That's what I was trying to find.
So under the agricultural regulations, so it says, land in agricultural use means land within resource area or buffer zone presently and primarily used in producing or raising one or more of the following agricultural commodities for commercial purposes. Number one is animals, including but not limited to livestock, poultry, and bees. So that would, therefore fall under that, category. And then another thing that is laid out in.
Sorry, did it say primarily used?
Yes, it says presently and primarily used for producing or raising one or more of the following agricultural commodities.
So, excuse me, what percentage of your business is producing foals versus training and lessons and everything else?
Probably half and half. I have taken out 6 poles out here, set that they're forward there, and raised there.
Okay, thank you.
So manure is mentioned a couple times in this section, and one of the things that's manure is mentioned regarding is for use on crop fields. So that's an exemption that's laid out in the act, and then the other one is composting, which this kind of would fall under. Is composting of manure is allowed within the resource area, well, sorry, not the resource area, but the buffer zone to the resource area. And that, I believe that it mentions the buffer zone, but I'm not sure if it really mentions the riverfront area specifically. But, again, I think the biggest issue for me is the size that the pile got to and the proximity to the river, and I think you guys have addressed at least the first concern, which is the size of the pile, and in your management plan you've said that you will remove that on a quarterly basis, which I think is at least a improvement from where it was being removed on a twice yearly basis. I just feel like, and I know other members of the board share the concern that that this is going to get to that stage again, and if it does, we, as the Conservation Commission and myself as the agent, like it's our job to ensure that the wetlands and the river are being protected to the, to the regulation. So I just feel that it's really important that it's clear that, the management of this pile is done because it is, within the buffer zone, and it is something that, we don't have many like large rivers like this in town. I think the Weeantic River is one of the largest rivers in the south of Massachusetts. So I just think that it's really important that we, stress that this is an issue and that we don't, let it get to that point again in the future. I wasn't aware that part of your business was a, breeding, and, we probably should have discussed that at an earlier stage, but I do think that that would qualify them for certain agricultural exemption. Whether or not, I think, the part of the property where they're keeping the manure, it's, I would say it's a necessarily and related part of the property to the, overall operation of the barn, which, therefore would cause it to be land in agricultural use. It's obviously an area that's being used primarily for storage and composting of manure. So, I think that does change things from my perspective. Any animal farm that's producing, say, whether it's meat or livestock for sale, is going to have different regulations than just someone who has horses on their property or keeps horses. And for that matter, I think their property would probably be exempt from permitting. Now, whether or not that really protects the resource area, and whether or not that's what they've proposed has is doing enough for the resource area in your minds, I think we should hear from you guys to see where you feel what they've proposed is adequate for protecting the river.
Well, I think regardless of if it may or may not fall under agriculture, it's you don't want a manure pile close to the river. We don't have septic systems closer than 100 feet to a well. I mean, you can't. I don't think it's acceptable to have that there. Yeah, to me, in my opinion. And whether or not they're breeding there is a primary source of income, it sounds like they maybe have 5 foals. That's only 10% of their total horses that have that. So, but let me just finish talking. So, I mean, that would mean that a dog kennel could qualify. I mean, come on. So I don't really buy it totally. So that's just my opinion. I think they're trying to get around it, just to be honest.
What's your name, sir?
Dave Hall.
Just so you guys are aware, I don't mind disclosing financials. The breeding portion probably brings in more than any other portion. I'm selling foals for over $50,000 to $60,000 at times. It is primarily, it's not a hobby. That's how we make a living. That's how my grandparents made a living. We've been breeding horses there for a long time, so.
Okay.
So, I mean, based on my research, I think there are some different regulations around riverfront areas. It says specifically in the Wetlands Protection Act that you cannot store manure. I mean,
Well, that isn't in the regulations. It's not in 310 CMR that you cannot specifically store manure in. It does not mention that
It does say-
anywhere in the riverfront.
okay.
area.
It says
That-
you have to
that
file
is-
an NOI.
That is not 310 CMR that
No.
I'm looking at.
Okay.
Like the specific regulations do not mention that you are not allowed to store manure within the riverfront area. according to, you know, the.
Well, I guess it says you can't alter the area.
Yes, it says
So-
you can't alter the area and, you
Which
know,
includes storing manure. So like part of our issue is that we can look at the historical images of your farm over, 50 years, and we can see that that is wetlands back there, and it's been human altered, which is what it says on the, what is it?
wetlands change.
The wetlands change map. So it's acknowledging that humans have come in and disturbed wetlands that should not have been disturbed. It wasn't you, but it was in your family. It wasn't you specific, it was your.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so it's, so like, that's one thing that we're seeing that is of concern. And I think, whether you're storing manure or doing anything else, you are altering within 200 feet.
But why now?
Well, I guess why now is because you had a 30-foot tall manure pile that attracted a lot of attention by a lot of people, and then it was brought to us.
Can I ask you, who are a lot of people?
Because we only know of two, so
Oh, well.
unfortunately.
I can tell you that I know of a lot more than two. I was at a political rally and ran into a political activist who was well aware of the issue in Plymouth. So it's
Is it possible to get a list of names?
absolutely not.
Okay.
So I have heard that people have received letters saying that you would sue them if they spoke against your stable. So
Send a letter to who?
We've never sent a letter.
I saw one, so.
It doesn't matter who,
It doesn't
doesn't matter how
really
many
matter, so,
people,
yeah.
if one person makes
Or
a,
have we
if-
ever been approached by any of the neighbors? They have never come and knocked on the door. They have never written us a letter. They have never sent an email.
So that's all fine, like,
They
I
have
don't
never-
want to, like, that and your neighbors is kind of irrelevant to us, it's just how it came to us.
No, that's going off topic, but I will tell you honestly, and I am not someone that I will tell you if I wrote a letter, neither one of us have written a letter. So whatever letter you saw is forgery, and that's really unfair.
Okay, no, but it's not influencing what I'm saying. You're asking, how did I hear of it? That's how we heard of it, but now that it's sitting here in our purview, we have an obligation to enforce the laws that we took an oath to enforce. So, like, the whole issue between the neighbors is kind of irrelevant at this point, to us.
What do you? Yeah, I could care less about that. What do you guys suggest?
what was that?
What do they
What do you
suggest?
suggest?
We'd like to move forward and fix this and burden.
Well, I've been,
The town time and resources could be better spent. So I want to address this and be able to have everybody move forward.
all right, as I've been listening to, I also been trying to find out some information. Raising horses are officially categorized as livestock. Horses are officially categorized as livestock under federal law, which is a cornerstone of agricultural practices. So what they're doing is agricultural, and we need to know, how far the agricultural exemptions go to protecting,
Sure, so.
if there are any separate rules for this type of thing. I mean, the agricultural exemptions that we're used to basically deal with cranberry growers and doing things within the wetlands, but this is a little.
There's not a whole lot of livestock raising in the town of Carver, but under the regulations, again, these agricultural exemptions are pretty complicated, but they do lay out a whole bunch of stuff in here. And under normal maintenance of land and agricultural use, one of the things that is mentioned is the maintenance and repair of ongoing agricultural composting sites, storage areas, and work areas, and the storage of fertilizers, pesticides, manures, compost materials, and other soil amendments, provided that such storage only occurs in the buffer zone or land subject to flooding. So, that's kind of limiting, it to buffer zone and land subject to flooding. I don't know that allows for, if buffer zone is also including riverfront area. I think that.
Well, the buffer zone for riverfront is 200 feet.
Right, and I think that the agricultural part of this was written before the Riverfront Act was even put into place. So I think again, it just makes like this whole situation, it's a complicated situation because, you know, they've had this stable there for many years, and you know, if it was a bigger site and there was more spots on the property, we would ask them to move it, you know, completely, you know, out of the buffer zone. But, you know, because of the logistics of the site, it's a pretty small site, and again, the river runs behind the whole property. It's very hard to ask them, you know, to put a manure pile right out in front of the, you know, in front of their road and in their parking area. It's just not reasonable, you know, to do, and that's why we were kind of going over all of these different possibilities at our last meeting of, you know, how this could be done in a responsible manner. You know, again, my suggestion at the last meeting was, you know, let's keep it outside of 65 feet. Let's make sure that there's erosion control around the, you know, permanently around the manure pile. And let's, you know, continue to have the management plan be, you know, followed, and let the, you know, responsible removal of the manure be on a regular basis. And, you know, they've agreed to comply with, you know, all of those things. It's just at this point, you know, we don't want to allow it to get back to the point that it was at and, you know, cause runoff or, you know, leaching into the water.
But I mean, I think at the last meeting, we asked the next step to be doing wetlands delineation, which is something, you know, so you know, Liz and Mike, that we always start from. We need to have the wetlands delineated so we know where each 65, 100-foot and 200-foot buffer zone is. So then, and then hear from you what you would do to keep that as far away as possible. But we don't have any delineation, and that's something we commonly ask for. Anyone can correct me if I'm wrong.
No,
That's correct.
That's usually a starting point.
That's correct. I mean, your letter says that you're going to keep it 65 feet away, but we don't know where that 65 feet is until there is a survey done.
My only other solution is that we can move it on the other side of the property, but that does make an issue for our neighbors if it is close to them.
We're not saying that,
No,
we just need
want
the
a survey
delineation.
done. We just
a
need to,
survey
we just
done.
need to see the 65, the 100-foot and the 200-foot, so we
Right.
can,
That's an expense to us that I don't feel that we need to do. I can ask my council about it because that's where we've already discussed with them how far we need to go and what we need to do. And I feel that what we're offering, I mean, our next pickup is the 1st November. The company's coming to get the manure the first week in November. They're coming to get it. I don't feel that that's necessary. There's no proof of runoff. There's no proof there's ever been any runoff.
so I did
The
actually,
river
so on the site visit with Savory, we did see a runoff ditch coming from exactly where the manure pile was. I walked it to the river, and there was a stump stuck in it to block it. Savory pointed it out to me. So
Yeah,
I
there
disagree.
was.
I have not gone that far back to see it, I'll be honest. I don't step back there. It's very heavy vegetation. I don't want to go back there.
But I did.
This was on the north side, if you're looking at the manure pile from the barn, this was on the right side, actually very close to the barn, and really where the river is the closest to the, so if you're, or sorry, the left side.
It was the left side,
If you're
yeah.
looking at the manure pile from the barn, it's on the left side where the kind of river bends in that area. There was kind of this very small, like channel.
Oh, Emil, you had asked us to fix that and get rid of that so there was no, so we did.
Okay.
Right, but so it was evidence that there was runoff, is my point. So,
The manure has never been there though. The manure
It
is
still
stored
doesn't
back
matter,
in
we
the
still need to be 65 feet away from the river.
we
That's-
need to have the
It
delineation
needs
so
to
we
be
can go
delineated.
from there. It's like where we start, and
If-
I defer to Emil, but I'm not sure it's your choice. I think it's a cost that you need to occur if we ask you to do that.
No, we'll look into it, but I don't believe it actually is something that's enforced unless it's council that enforces it. Because I did speak, like I said, to our council, and he said after this meeting, if we can't come to some sort of agreement, he's gonna step in for us, because I don't literally have the time to continue going around. I wanna fix it.
Sure.
I wanna make it right. I want the river protected. I want our business to be protected as it's been, and everything to be fair and move forward. And I want some sort of common ground for everyone, but I don't want to sink, tons of time into this. I don't have tons of time to think into this, so they would seek this for me. If there's someone that they should talk to on you guys' end, which again, I don't,
And then
I,
just let them handle it.
and let them handle it instead of us having to handle it. And yourselves, instead of you guys having to handle it too.
Yeah, so I think the board's position is that, they want you guys to have a survey to ensure that you're at a 65-foot buffer from the river, which I think is reasonable. And this is to do with our bylaw really now, not our, state regulations, which, obviously the agricultural exemptions are a part of. We require a 65-foot no disturb zone. And in order to ensure where that is, I don't think the commission is asking you to do an entire survey of your whole property, but just to delineate, where the river is, the riverbank is, and any BVW that is present being bordering vegetated wetlands, and then from there we can get an idea of exactly where that 65-foot buffer is. And, that is something, if you guys aren't just willing to, agree to that, the commission can, issue an enforcement order, which would, then require you guys to comply with that. So I think, that's kind of, if that's what the commission is, looking to do, and to require a survey, then I think the best way to do that is to require that through an enforcement order, and to put a date certain that you want them to get that to you guys, so that that way everyone knows exactly where that 65-foot buffer zone is, and to make sure that there's no fill being placed behind that, and I think at that point that would certainly be reasonable for what we recommended in terms of, the 65-foot buffer.
But in the future, there should be some sort of containment of it, like a concrete little knee wall-like thing, maybe 2 feet high or something to keep the stuff from spreading, and a concrete pad.
Well,
Build-
let's, I think the first step, and it's the first step we have with any applicant, anybody coming in
Right.
here, is to see a plan.
Right.
We work off a plan. That is the first thing that we looked at when we make any kind of decision or recommendation. So I think we need the surveyor's plan, showing the 65, 100, and 200 feet from exactly where the stream bed and the vegetated wetlands are right now. And then we come back and we see how that reacts, or how that is in relationship with the pile of manure where it is right now,
Okay.
and make a decision. But
That's reasonable.
either you can tell us that you're going to have a survey done, or we can vote right now to have an enforcement order, in which case you'll have to have it done. So,
Yep, probably. We know someone that can do it, it's fine.
okay.
What was that?
And then after,
She seemed,
we know someone that we can do it, so it's fine. After the survey is done, after you get all of that material, there'll be one more meeting, and then can we move forward from this so that you guys can focus on what you guys are focused on, we can focus on what our focus is? Like, when do you want next meeting? Like,
I'm having a hard time
we're just
hearing.
trying to.
Yeah, she's saying, do you want it for the next meeting, and will we be able to move on from this, after they get the survey done?
I think the survey is going to tell us what the next steps are. The survey will tell us where your pile of manure is in proximity to the 65 feet, to the 100 feet, et cetera. And that's going to determine what our next steps are. And again, it would be nice to have it by the next meeting, if that could be done. There's no NOI, so we don't have to
Yeah,
advertise
our next
anything.
meeting is in 2 weeks, which I think is probably a too fast for, most people need a little bit longer than that to get a survey done.
Okay.
And, wetlands delineation, and to show all of that on a plan, if that is what your guys are asking.
All right, so October 1st is the 2 weeks after, is the second meeting from now.
I believe so.
I would add it would be nice if we could have another site visit once that's done so we can see the delineation, because only Savory and I got on site, so.
Yeah. Well, let's come up with a date.
October
I'm away.
1st. Yeah.
We're away competing for 14 days. So the next date in October that we could meet, if it's not in 2 weeks, would be after the 14th.
After the 14th.
About
I think the 15th is our second meeting in October. Let me check.
The 1st and 15th are our meetings in October.
So October 15th, would that work for you guys?
yes, we might even be able to be at that one because we're flying home for our daughter's wedding. So
Yeah, Wednesday, October 15th would be 3 meetings from now. So if that works for you, then that, that we would like to have the survey done by then.
sounds good.
All right? Any other comments from anybody?
No, I think we covered it. It just,
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. We look
Thank you.
forward to getting your survey and seeing you on the 15th of October.
Thank you.
All right.
night.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. Any other comments?
I don't know, I'm still, they keep saying that there's no contamination of the water, but the water's never been tested upstream and downstream.
Well, what is the Board of Health? Have we talked to?
Yes, so I've discussed with the Board of Health agent, Kevin Borg. According to him, they're in compliance with the Board of Health requirements for stables. They've actually the neighbors have had an ongoing complaint with Kevin about this property for quite some time. And they've, according to Kevin, he's been out there many times and he doesn't see an issue with how they've handled their manure on the property. I think Carver, has, according to the Board of Health bylaw, the 65-foot buffer is the, closest a manure pile can be. It says in certain circumstances, like it should be further away, which, I feel like, this could be one of those circumstances. But according to him, as long as they're at that 65-foot, he doesn't have an issue with how they've managed the pile. I think we all agreed that it was, out of hand at the stage that it got to. But, I think, requiring like water testing, like, it's difficult because like, what exactly are you testing for? Like, are you testing for like nitrogen? Are you testing for like, phosphorus? Are you testing
That's
for
why I think if you did it
E.
upstream and
coli?
downstream, you would notice a difference. Then you know what you know what I'm saying? It just, you don't know what you're right. You don't know what you're testing for if you only test downstream. But if
It
you
is-
test it
it is-
upstream and
Yeah, but if
downstream.
It is difficult because you don't have a baseline. You need, but maybe testing upstream you would, because you don't know who's contributing other parts of the stream.
Right, I just
But
think
then,
it's
you know,
it's hard to,
Yeah.
like that data isn't necessarily going to be, it might be revealing to us, it might, not be. And I just don't know that it's worth putting, them through that extra step when, really what we're looking at is, are there disturbances, to wetlands and in the buffer zone. Like, we don't typically get involved with water quality.
Right. No, I'm just going off the fact that they continually say, we've never polluted the water.
Well,
We don't know that.
I think the only solution would be to ask them to do a containment of some sort.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
You mean, that would be the way to, even if it was polluting, I mean.
Yeah, it's just like, again, like enforcement orders, like that we have to be very specific. If you're gonna issue an enforcement order, like we didn't do that tonight, but, you know, I think that if you're gonna issue an enforcement order to require them to do something, because obviously, like, you know, they don't wanna do anything unless they have to do it. And, you know, if you're gonna issue an enforcement order to require them to do something, I think typically it's not to build something in the buffer zone. Like, it's usually like you're saying, you know, you can't build that in the buffer zone, or you need a permit to build that in the buffer zone, or you need to actually take that out of the buffer zone. It's just like, I don't know that that's really like a practice or something that we really have the power to do, to tell someone, oh, you have to build something.
I do
Maybe
think we have two concerns. One is the runoff, and the other, to your point, is the possible leaching into the groundwater. So when it was that high, that weight and that mass could have been leaching into the groundwater.
I mean, instead of having build something, maybe there's some natural solution, like we make people plant certain types of vegetation that might absorb more, whatever. Something like that. I mean, you know what I mean? We do ask people to do that, you know, and I think, you know, it's a unique situation.
It's a very tough situation,
Yeah.
you know, in all fronts, and I think, you know, their status as an agricultural business, again, it does change things, like, because it does qualify there for agricultural exemption, and, you know, our bylaw also provides, you know, stipulations for agricultural exemptions. So it's, you know, it's across the board that they are producing in that.
But even if it wasn't
livestock.
agricultural, like, say if the cranberry bog owner was using some chemical he wasn't supposed to use, and it was contaminating the water, that would be a problem. It's the same deal here. This is definitely, it's a problem, you know, I mean, you can't have a septic, we don't like to even see septic systems that close to the river.
Right, but a septic system is a source of pollution of like many different things. A pile of horse manure that's being composted is a like point source for, you know, nutrients
And bacteria. Right.
and we don't know, you know, like what the cause is, so or what the content of that is. So it's, you know, I think there's, you know, many farms that are producing livestock that are being allowed to store manure and compost manure within, you know, jurisdictional areas, and whether or not that's a problem or not, it's exempted in many cases. So I think it's something that, you know, we have to consider is, you know, like, you know, I think that this is a situation where it's not clear in the guidelines and the regulations. And so the local board, you guys are gonna have to come up with some requirements that you feel is necessary for protecting the Weantic River in this case. You know, and above and beyond what my recommendations are, you know, if there's things that you guys feel are necessary for protecting the river, then I think the best way to do that is to, you know, see the survey, see where on the property, you know, things can be done, and then come up with some specific requirements for this, you know, family, how, you know, you would like to see this managed, and by what date you would like to see those goals accomplished.
What enforcement capabilities do we have to have the manure removed more often?
You know, I have to look into that more, because I just don't know. You know, it doesn't really fall under.
I'm kind of thinking along the lines of a good neighbor policy, you know, just to
'Cause
smooth the
brought
water
them
so
originally, right? Like the smell and
Right.
that what
Yeah.
originally
Yeah.
started the conversation?
Right.
Okay.
yeah, it may, you
They're
know, it may
nuisance
cost them a
laws,
little
yeah.
bit more, but it's going to also cause them peace, and hopefully the neighbors as well.
Is there volume limitations with the exemptions? I mean, They could do a 300-foot pile, 65 feet from the river, and that,
But, I
we
mean,
would have nothing we could do about that?
If they were just raising horses, they would not be exempt, is that what you're saying?
No, so if they were just like housing horses
Housing
in
horses.
stable and doing riding lessons and things like that, they would not be producing an agricultural commodity, and therefore they would not be exempt. And, you know, the farming and wetland resource areas actually uses horse stables as an example for someone that's not exempt, unless they're selling horses.
So we have to take their word that they are actually doing that. We don't know that, right? But I'm not saying that it's not a court of law. I get it.
Yeah,
But I
I
mean, I'm
mean,
just like saying, you
these
could have
are
a dog
things
kennel.
that
You
you
could have a
have-
dog kennel next to there and say, I'm an agricultural business.
Yeah, I'm not sure that dogs are
And not
an
considered livestock,
agricultural
yeah.
commodity,
No, horses
but-
are used in livestock. They're
Yeah.
used as plow
I-
horses.
okay, but I mean,
and-
Yeah, I see where you're getting
It
at,
just
but
seems like
it's,
it's a little bit of a loophole that they're squeezing through. To be honest with you, and I'm just a little.
well, yeah, I
little leery
think
about it,
like
but if
we,
that's what they say, that's what they say, I have to take.
I agree with you, but I think like
Yeah.
we live in an area where
Yeah.
livestock isn't the main agricultural commodity.
Right.
In other places, you know, it's not a whole lot in Massachusetts, but in other places there are, you know, farms that are producing livestock, and that's their primary business, and you know, they're given these exemptions. So it's you know, again, there is a certain amount of trust that you have to give the people who are
Right.
telling you the truth. But, you know, I think, you know, based on what they've been telling us, you know, like their family has been in this business,
Right.
in this location for many years.
I don't think that they found a loophole. I think the loophole found them.
Yeah, you're probably right. But that's okay. Whatever. I still think though, having a huge nutrient source next to a river is not a good idea. And somehow we got to contain it. You know, however we
I
decide
agree.
later on down the road. you know.
Well, I think
Yeah.
that, I mean, obviously, the issue that you have is any kind of runoff. So do you ask them to cover it? You
We
know,
did.
You put tarps over it.
We did when we were there. We
Yeah.
said it would be great if you could cover this in rain.
Well, these are things that we can talk about
Well,
when
yeah,
you're here on
and
the
they
15th.
seemed
See,
amenable to
something like that's
that,
hard to
but-
regulate. I think if you put up a
It's the regulation
physical
that I'm
barrier,
concerned about.
you're better off because
I agree.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, the ideal solution, I totally agree with you, Dave, would be to lay a concrete pad, put up knee walls, have a
roof.
structure, and with a roof, ideally, that, you know, it's just,
even if it didn't have a roof, it just had the knee walls and the concrete structure, it could contain it tremendously.
mhm, yeah.
And you have a drain that goes off into some,
Yeah, you definitely have to drain it out.
yeah, into some,
Well, with
somewhere
roof, you have
farther
less
away.
drainage that you have to
Yeah,
deal with.
yeah,
Yeah.
that you could drain it out, and do like a little cesspool-like thing or something like that, dry well or whatever.
Yeah.
That would be ideal, but whatever.
Yeah, and I think, you know, hopefully they're going to, you know, do what they said and work with us. But, you know, at some point, you know, if necessary and they're not willing to comply with, you know, doing the survey or things like that, an enforcement order would be warranted to require them to do what.
That
you
sounds
know,
like they're gonna do
thinks
it, so.
Needs to be done. But yeah, you know, again, you have to take people for their word, and if they prove you wrong, then, you know, you can certainly, you have to act, you know, to address that.
Yeah, I didn't get the impression that they were making up the whole story about foaling as they were going along. That seemed to be pretty well established as something that was part of
That's
their
fine,
business.
I don't.
So, you know, I don't think
But-
that's an issue.
It just seemed awful convenient, you know, just like right away, you know, but-
Convenient. Okay, all right. So they'll be here on the 15th. Okay, moving on. Next order of business, discussion of 44 Lakeview Street, additional CPC funding for pavilion and fence labor. So,
Yeah, so Savory and I met with the town administrator, I think it was probably a month or so ago now, and, you know, he wanted to, you know, just talk to us about, you know, the 44 Lakeview property and, you know, going forward, you know, how we're going to accomplish our goals for that property. And, you know, we had received funding from CPC to build a pavilion and the fence, and a small platform down by the water. And unfortunately, part of that agreement was that the Boy Scouts were going to be the, people who actually installed that work. And part of that agreement, was contingent upon like some kind of agreement for in-kind labor from the Boy Scouts, which kind of fell through. At the time, Dan Bancher was on the commission and he was working on that, but I think a few things fell through there, and we haven't been able to get that done. So we have funding for the materials, but we need to potentially seek more funding for like getting a contractor to actually install that. So that's one thing that the town administrator, talked to us about, and we said, he said maybe you guys should ask for some more CPC funding to, get that all done. So that has to be a town meeting article, and the next meeting that's available is the April meeting in April 2026. So we
It would just be an addition to the CPC list.
Yeah.
Don't we have to have like numbers?
Yes.
Yeah, how much the fences per foot and how much
Yes.
the construct,
You'd probably have to put it out to bid for at least get some, maybe not technically out to bid, but at least get some bids from people to find out how much it's gonna cost, and,
Or at least ask for 3 bids.
yeah.
You don't have to
And
get-
same with the
you don't have to
pavilion,
get
you
3
need
back.
like,
You need to know what, you gotta know what you're asking for, that's basically.
and you need
what I'm
somebody to
saying.
draw up some technical
Right.
drawings.
Now, this is all,
Dan's crayon drawings.
Did you
not
know,
gonna work?
yeah, Dan's crayon.
have it. I'm sure I have
Crayons
it.
are a 1/4 inch thick, so you measure that.
I think I had that. Anyway, I'm sure it's here somewhere. Anyway, I'm not gonna look for it. We'll have to go back and find out what the funding covered 2 years ago when it was passed, and I think that was materials only.
I believe it was materials only.
So we'll have to find out what that amount was, see if that amount is still going to cover those materials.
so the amount was $50,000. I can tell you that.
It was 50,000.
$50,000, yeah. Which is to me that sounds like a lot of money for
Fence.
split rail fence and some wood for a pavilion and a deck. To me, that almost could cover almost the materials and installation. But I don't know what things are being bid for these days. And I'm no
gonna
expert,
respectfully
so.
disagree with you.
Yeah, I don't think that'll cover it.
I bought 3 sheets of plywood and 15 2x6 today, and they were $346.
Yikes.
52 by 6.
15 2x6s and 3 sheets of plywood and
How thick plywood?
7/16.
300 and something dollars?
Yeah. 50,000 doesn't go far in the building world.
Yikes.
No, it doesn't. Okay, well, I mean, we can look at
And I don't know
whatever.
what Dan used to get that.
I was just gonna say,
pricing as
we can find out how he
Right.
came up with that, with those numbers. If he had a list
Now-
of things that he
As
needed.
far as warrant articles, CPC has been told, it's
Yeah.
a very aggressive schedule now. They're not gonna let us put a placeholder in and then put
That's
it in.
right.
It has to be
Yes.
done
By
by November-ish,
Yeah.
December.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
That shouldn't be a
December, end of December is the final cutoff, but we're gonna need to have at least a draft article, by, I would say, end of November, so.
Yeah, because when the CPC's gonna need to vote on it by then. before
Yeah.
we
Right, you
even
have a
get to an
public
article.
hearing, right, after
Yeah,
your
we have
vote?
to have the public,
Yep.
the public hearing.
Right, now, we, as the Carver Conservation Commission, can put forward the request.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So is one of us gonna get a hold of somebody, or how are we gonna, like, to figure out the cost, like what additional cost we need?
Yeah, we can, I think that we should probably just look up and find out what the last one was for, what Dan had identified as lumber needed, and
I don't know that
Whatever he
he
has for a
kept
plan.
great
whatever-
records
yeah,
of
whatever he had
that.
for a
Plans
plan.
for some sort
No,
of-
but for additional,
Yeah,
additional.
I
Do we
really
know where
don't.
Dan is, or do we need to check milk cartons?
No, I just saw Dan. The other
did you?
day, yeah,
Did he?
yeah.
All right. I didn't know if he was in the witness protection program.
No.
I haven't seen Dan in a while.
I just saw him like on Sunday.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, we might as well discuss the other, you know, thing that's on here for 44 Lakeview while we're at it. You know, at that same meeting, we had discussed with the town administrator about the house on the property and what, if any, plans that we have for it. You know, I had told him that it's my opinion that I think, you know, it's a safety hazard. It's not really doing anything, you know, useful for the town. So my opinion is that it probably should be demolished and, you know, removed from the property, which is a bigger job. And I think, you know, that's certainly going to cost significant, you know, money to do the full demolition. And then we also wanted to build some kind of parking for the property. You know, right now as it stands, it's kind of a, you know, a safety hazard and a hazard to the liability to the town. And I think the town administrator is on the same page with that. So, you know, he had asked us if we would, you know, seek funding for, you know.
Where does he think we should seek funding for that, other than the town?
No, it would probably be the town, but I think, if I remember from the meeting that we had with him, this was generated by our insurance company for the town, who looked at it and said,
This needs to go.
this is a big liability for something that's not being used.
So do we have as a conservation commission have money that we could?
Well, that's a question I guess we could talk to Glenn about, whether he feels that we should put this in front of a town vote. I mean, we do have our maintenance fund,
Yeah, and how much?
which could conceivably be used for this.
How much do we have in there, do you know?
I don't know the answer to that, but I think this would take a considerable chunk of that.
Right,
To do
it
that.
probably would.
I think it would take probably the majority of that money.
Oh, yeah, you think so?
Yeah.
And, you know.
But I can get back to you on that number
Yeah.
and get.
I know
that
what
to
it
you.
costs to demo a house, I have no idea, but.
It's a lot.
20 grand?
No, more than that.
More than that?
Because you gotta remove everything.
Yeah,
That's the
everything. There might be
expensive part.
asbestos
It's an
is the
older house, too.
removal.
It's an older
Yeah.
house.
Any kind of
that's-
remediation
yeah.
that has to be done in there?
Yeah,
Kind of
Yeah,
green
okay.
screen comes to mind?
I don't know.
yeah, I'm wondering if there's anything in there that's worth anything, you know, old boards, because it's dry.
When was that house built, do we know?
It's over 100 years
Are
old.
you gonna have a yard sale?
Have people come take parts of it, so.
No, I mean, if they're wide floorboards.
Burn it down and let the.
There are companies that salvage things. They come in and they'll take a lot of it away.
Architectural salvage, yeah.
Yeah, architectural salvage, there might be stuff in there that's worthwhile. I'm thinking floorboards, maybe windows. I'm not 100% sure.
Fixtures,
Let's see.
light fixtures.
It's an old house.
Vintage.
Well,
I
is it
will-
part of it gutted?
I would say half of it's gutted. The
of it's
upstairs,
gutted.
the
It's not
upstairs is
much in
gutted.
there, really.
I was gonna say, it's probably not much salvageable in there.
No. We went in there not
Some
a
remnants
little
from
while
slavery.
ago.
I think it was in the process of being renovated when, you know, whoever was doing that just kind of gave up. And that's when, you know, we were able to acquire it. So I think it's, you know, it was like, you know, if there was anything, you know, that was worth money, they probably
It's probably been gone already.
took that, recycled it, and.
There's not
you know,
much in
were
there.
So
Installing
we-
new.
We'd have to present an article separate then.
It was built in
To the town.
1850, for those that are
Yes,
curious.
it was.
Okay, so,
Which does make it a historic building, which
Yes.
is another hurdle that we'd have to jump through before town meeting is to get.
yeah, we'd have to
I think
talk
we'd have to
to,
get
we would have to
historical
talk to the Carver Historic Commission about our desire to tear it down. They in turn could and probably would impose a 6-month moratorium on demolition, and ask us to look for someone who would come in and renovate it, or, you know, another buyer. We can't do that because it's conservation land.
Right.
We can't resell it. It can't be used as someone's home. So I think that in explaining that to the Historic District Commission, that you know, they wouldn't, if we explained it the right way, they would not put the moratorium on, because there's no recourse. The 6 months would just delay us 6 months
It's
with
just
no
a-
answer
Right.
at the other end of that. So,
Is that a historic district, though? It just is.
no, it's It's not a historic district. They wanted it to be, but it's not.
Yeah, I know, I remember that, I remember when they tried that, it didn't go through.
Well, it was
Just because it's an
withdrawn.
old- But just
It
because
was
it's an old
withdrawn.
house, they still have jurisdiction over it?
Anything over 100 years. Yep.
So we would ask for this next town meeting for money for this, right?
Yes, I would think so. I think that that's probably what, if we could find out how much is in the, but I don't want to, I mean, we keep.
You don't drain it.
Yeah.
right?
I mean, we keep getting all this property too, you know,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
keep
yeah.
accepting all this property and that we have no money to maintain.
Right.
It would be nice to use the money to make what we have more usable.
Should we break it up though, say, no, this year we're gonna demo it, and next year we're gonna put the parking lot in, rather than do both at once?
Well, parking lot's an easy thing because we can just,
Use gravel or whatever.
it's gotta be gravel, it
It's
can't
gotta
be,
be gravel,
it can't be
right.
pervious. But if the town wants to do something more, then that's gonna have to be their responsibility. If they want to, you know, make it a little larger to accommodate council on aging, you know, as overflow, pickleball overflow, then that would be,
Out-of-town beachgoers.
yes.
Out-of-town
yes.
beachgoers, yeah.
Unpermitted cars. Then I think that that's something the town would have to look into taking care of themselves. Now, along with this, and this is something that maybe we would want to think about, the original plan that Dan came up with for the pavilion had it sort of in that little crook of where the fence used to be. Pretty much adjacent to the Council on Aging property, the town property. I'm wondering if perhaps it would be not a bad idea to change the location of the pavilion to where the
The houses?
house used to be. Put it there. And, you know, because they're going to have to fill that in anyway.
Oh, look at that, it's got a picture up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so initially, this was a plan that was done by the town engineer after our, initial like
Oh, I
kind
didn't
of
see, I haven't seen this. This is
discussions on, the overall campus of the conservation and the beach property and the COA. And, we had discussed at the time that, a small parking lot off of the, beach access road, in this location would make sense. This was obviously before we had, really had a discussion about, the demolition. But, like Savory said, like there's kind of a bump here in the property line. And that's initially where the
That's the pavilion right there.
pavilion was going to be
Original.
done. Whether the town wants to make, this whole area parking, this area is a flat area and it's, kind of a open grassy area. Or if they would want to extend it in this direction, I think the shed is kind of nice to have because there's storage space in there for, conservation equipment that we have, potentially. So potentially keeping the garage might be something we'd want to consider just for storage. But, I think, in order to get something actually done on this property, we need to probably seek more funding. And I think the town meeting is probably going to be the place for that. So I think really what we need to do is vote on putting in some town meeting articles for, number one, our initial plans for this property, but as well as considering the house demolition. And I also want to hear from you guys, like, if you feel that, the house should be demoed. I know there was some discussion before about, other potential uses for the house, but it just doesn't seem feasible based on how much funding we have as a conservation commission and, the state of the house and the age of the house.
It probably costs more to make it usable than it would be to take it down.
Yeah, because it has to be all ADA, everything, it can't, I don't know.
Is it dangerous?
The house,
it needs a lot of work.
It's not
It needs
falling
mo-
in or anything, but it's,
The second
It
floor
could be
has no
dangerous.
floor.
The
There's no
issue,
floor on second floor.
the real issue is that because it's conservation land, any kind of structure could only be used for conservation
Purposes.
purposes,
Okay.
educational,
Recreation.
recreational, the
Okay.
passive recreation, et cetera. And one of our select board members, Sarah Hewins, has, found me at Carver Night Out and said she thought we should keep the house for those reasons. My personal opinion is that I don't know if there's enough demand to use that building enough to warrant the cost. It's gonna cost it's gonna cost $400,000 or $500,000 to get that building into a place where it's inhabitable,
And then it has to be maintained.
and then it has to be maintained.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And I just, I don't see
and then the utilities have to be paid, it's
Oh,
a.
yeah.
insurance,
Insurance,
everything,
yeah.
and security.
All the doorways are too narrow.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
It's
and
an old house.
I just don't see in a town of our size, people clamoring for educational uses in a building like that.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 or 3 classes a week
Yeah.
from the school or something, but that certainly isn't enough to warrant the expenditure to save that building.
I mean, I hate to see it go too, but I mean.
Oh, I hate to see it go.
But-
I was on the Historic District Commission for 6 years, and these are the kinds of building, I mean, we worked so hard to save the Atwood building, which is 2 doors down, right in the upper left-hand corner there. But again, you weigh we felt that it was more important to have conservation
Yeah.
land and maybe give up the house than to save the house but have it and lose the land.
Yeah.
So,
So we need to find out how much it's gonna cost.
we need to,
To raise the
we need to
building.
get a demo cost for that building.
So that's 2 things we need
Right.
cost on, before we can talk about funding, and the funding source.
What cost for the demo and the parking lot?
Well, at least a demo for now.
Right, demo for now. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, separate it maybe. But
All right.
if you have the machines out there, maybe you just have it, whatever.
Do you know any
Flatten it
demo
out.
companies? Do you work with any demo companies?
Not off the
No?
top of my head,
Okay.
no.
I know one in Middleborough, Sandbox Excavation, very good guy, been in business for decades.
What are they called?
Sandbox.
Do you know them?
I know them personally, yeah. My son.
Can you call
very
them and
good-
ask them
I can, Paul Attender, yeah.
to take a
Yeah,
drive
I
by?
think it will have to be bid out, like.
No, I know.
He knows how to do that.
And, yeah,
He's big.
I
I'm
just
just-
think, you
Just
know.
so we have a
But
ballpark, so we.
Yeah.
But if Ann has to drive by,
He'll drive by.
we'll have a ballpark.
No, he'll give me a ballpark if I ask him. to
Yeah,
drive
well,
by.
but at least
I mean, I
know
don't
what we're
how busy
talking
he
about.
is, but
Right.
Okay.
very reputable.
Yeah, we can't,
Very good, thank you.
And then I can look up other companies and just send
Yeah.
out.
I do think, in the interest of like moving along the process, it would be good to at least vote to have these articles, put forward by the commission. And if we have to rescind them for any reason, we can do that. But I think just so that, I can start working on drafting
Me tonight.
a warrant
Okay.
article for this.
All right.
All right, so that being said, I will accept a motion for the Conservation Commission to add an article to the April 2026 town meeting to, are we going to do CPC funding? Is that the first one?
I think so, for the first one. I
Okay,
think
so now,
CPC.
then the motion is, I'm looking for a motion to request CPC funding through the Carver, the Community Preservation, not preservation, what is it?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Preservation
Yeah.
Commission, for funding for the pavilion and fence labor and any additional material costs that aren't covered in the original.
so moved.
Motion.
Second.
All right. Carl
Did you
made
get
the
all
motion,
that,
Dave
Ashley?
seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. That is unanimous. Then I will accept a motion to have the Conservation Commission Place an article on the town warrant for the April 2026 meeting requesting funding for the demolition of the home at 44 Lakeview Street and potential parking.
So moved. Yeah, go. You can have it. Yeah.
All right.
I wasn't
Ann,
sure he was done talking.
Second? Yeah, I wasn't either. I wasn't sure either.
Well, you
No, I
kept
was-
pausing there. We were like
I'm wondering
waiting.
if we don't want to deal with the parking.
I'd say just raise the building at this point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all right,
And
so,
not parking.
so I'll accept a motion to do that for the house demolition.
So moved.
All right, second?
Second.
Second, Dave. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, so we have those two, one CPC request and the other, an article to demo the house. Minutes. We have two sets of minutes here. Has everyone read them?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, let's start with July 2nd.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Second?
Second.
All right, Ian, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, they're approved. July 23rd,
I make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
second?
Second, yeah.
All right, Dave, second. All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, approved unanimously. One other thing under any topics not reasonably anticipated by the chairman, along with the discussion of the demolition of the house at 44 Lakeview Street, Conservation owns a little dilapidated barn slash garage at the north end of Savory Avenue.
We do?
Yes, that little building that's falling down, that's on conservation property.
Oh,
And the roof is like collapsed.
Yeah,
I thought
yeah,
that belonged to the house that was sitting next to it.
No, it's not, that's ours.
No such
we-
luck, huh?
We own like a foot around. We own like a foot around the foundation. That's how it was.
We don't have to do anything with that, it's gonna fall on its own.
Well, I don't want that to happen, I don't want it to burn.
Is there electricity in it?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think there's
So,
anything. So I think that maybe, Ann, if you could, just have your guy drive by that too.
Okay, so it's the north end, you said, or the south?
Closest to the town hall.
Yeah,
the
the
north end. North end.
North end.
You can't miss it now, it's,
I can-
you'll see it every
Okay.
time.
He can just
Mark
go in there with a
it for you.
bucket loader and scoop it up probably.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe that is something that the
Probably a
town
heavy wind.
has machinery that can be done, but I just don't know what kind of foundation there is in there, if any.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a basement.
Right.
So if it is
Again,
just
we
a
don't know what's in there
slab,
either.
It might be just dirt.
if it
There's
is just a
nothing in there.
slab or a dirt
No.
foundation, maybe that can be done with town resources with like that would be a project that's probably doable with our maintenance fund,
Right.
so.
Yeah, but Ann, if you can have
I'll see, yeah.
your guy take just a quick look and see what he thinks, have him peek in the windows and see if he can
Yeah,
find
he'll-
out about the
he'll-
floor.
Yeah, if he's not too busy, he'll do it.
Okay.
I'll update you. I'll contact you.
Okay, great. In the meantime, I'm gonna look up a couple of other demo companies and maybe get names to you, and we can write a bid letter
Sure.
for 44 Lakeview.
And just one other thing that I wanted to make you guys aware of is that they are going to be paving the COA parking lot from September 9th to the 15th, which is next week, from Tuesday through the 15th. And the COA has asked if they can use our property for potential parking for some of their events, so they don't have to cancel everything. Maybe up to 12 cars in the kind of grassy field that we have on the right. I had talked to Savory about this briefly, but I didn't see any issue with it. It's it would be temporary for events.
Will they mow it?
I was gonna say, the brush hog out and go take care of that?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably have
They're
to.
gonna catch the grass on fire right now. They go in there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, hot exhaust on that grass. You could
But,
have a 12-car
yeah, so I think-
conflagration.
I told.
That'll get rid of the house.
Yeah,
Yeah, have it parked close to
That's
the
the
house.
worst case scenario. Let's not bring that down upon us. But yeah, so I told Connie that I don't see an issue with that, and she wanted me to thank you guys for that as well. for the opportunity to park some cars for their events. So yeah, it's just a temporary, like 6-day period.
They're
where-
paving the upper lot?
Yeah, no
I think they're
pickleball.
paving everything.
Everything.
They're closing
Yeah.
They're not paving the
They're
road, they're
closing
not paving the
the pickle-
beach, are they?
I think they're gonna pave everything.
They're
Oh,
paving
cool.
all
Yeah, they-
parking surfaces,
Oh,
from what I
nice.
understand.
All that?
Oh, that'd be nice.
Okay,
I
good.
think it's gonna be
Yeah,
a
because the beach area is
real
pretty
positive
Be
change.
nice.
Well, pickleball's already been done, right? That's already been paved.
Yep.
The
It
park.
has, but it's.
Yep, that's done.
Yeah, this new parking area has been installed. That looks brand new. So
They'll
they're
look- they'll look
trying to
real
match
good.
it up, all up with that. But yeah, I think it's going to be a positive improvement. The pickleball people, I think, are going to have to take a week off.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to allow any
No, they've
They
already,
parking
said
for
no,
them.
yeah.
it's been put out there through recreation that the pickleball court's gonna be shut down.
Are they busy?
Good.
They getting there?
Sometimes.
It's
It's on the weekend it is, I
Yeah.
drive by, during the day.
Very rarely when I drive by, there's no one there.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the post office around lunchtime. There's no one there, but, okay. Anything else, anybody?
I won't be here for the next 2 meetings.
Okay.
How will we go on?
I don't know. Probably much more smoothly.
I won't be here the first meeting in November,
Okay.
so that's the only one I'm going to miss. Okay, motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Bye.
Any, hearing none? We're out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Area
Thank
58.
you.